thinking, Keely, you didn't even get a 90 plus ATAR. Why are you filming this video?
I'm gonna be sick. Oh my god.
And let me tell you, I certainly didn't, but I learned a lot of study tips along the way, and some of these are not even normal. They're really different and something our teachers just casually told us. I felt like none of us really knew, yet were so important when we were studying for our exams. So what better timing to film this and post it before the school holidays and before the swap vac period, so you guys can know how to study effectively, reach your maximum ATAR, and just feel confident before your exams. I know your time is precious, so I'm going to start off with the more secretive, really effective study tips, and then also the more standard ones that you'd probably assume, but they may help you anyway if you don't know about them. Also, just letting you know, I asked 2 of my friends who got some incredible ATARs, so it's not just based on my study tips, it's some of theirs as well, and I'm sure they will help you in more than one way. So starting off with the first tip, hopefully you guys already know about this and are planning to do it anyway, but it is to do all 4 of the exams that are within the current study guide. Now, fingers crossed you know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, the structure of the exams usually change every 4 years, and you just want to make sure you do all the practice exams that are in the same guide as what your year will be in. It is really important to do all of them that are within what your exam will be based from. The next one that is really important is obviously to have really good notes, but a good way to make sure you have the best notes ever is to obviously go onto the VCAR website, check out the key knowledge that you need to know, print it out and make that your checklist for your notes to make sure you've covered everything and have it in depth so you're more prepared for the exam anyway. I'm pretty sure I still have my health and PE study notes, so I'll show you guys kind of what they look like and how I use the key knowledge as like a checklist for my notes. But yeah, it's definitely a good way to make sure you have everything, and that is basically what you'll be tested on. Key knowledge is what you should expect to be on the exam, so make sure you have it all and that you know it all. Now this next one is my favorite because I thought this was really interesting and no one really spoke about it, or at least I didn't really hear about it. But it is to go to the previous year, so if you're doing your exam in 2020, go to my year level last year, 2019 exams, and check out the examiner's report. So in the examiner's report, they will say what those previous students did really good in and what they really struggled in, just in a little paragraph. And then down a couple of pages, they will have a table showing the percentages of kids that got the questions right and wrong for every single question. And they will also have a comment section if the year level did really bad on a particular question. They will say what they did wrong, and that is something you need to keep an eye out for. As a student that's about to do their exams, you want to see what the previous year level struggled on, because that is most likely what you will be tested on. Not saying that you won't get questions that the previous year did really good on, you'll probably still get some of them, but the people who write the exams want to test you on things that students are struggling with, and they want to make sure that you do know that. Just literally dissect that whole examiner's report for every subject that you're doing. Now the next one, I got told this from my English teacher and I thought it was really interesting and kind of sneaky, but it is good because you can try and predict what's going to happen on your exam. Now this is in English in particular. When you're doing your past exam papers, you'll notice a little bit of a sequence with the questions. They may have an option of 2 quotes, 1 explain question, or like an evaluate one. I can't quite remember because that has been a whole year, but you'll be able to see if there's a pattern between the years, if they've got quote questions or just plain questions. So with this, you really want to prepare yourself how you're going to plan out your essay depending on the questions. Something we did heaps was just look at the questions and have 5 minutes to plan it, or however long you have to plan it before writing time. But this is just to make sure you get your brain ticking, you think of the quotes, you think of themes, how you're going to structure it in that short time frame, just looking at the style of question that it is. The next tip is to try and predict what your English question will be based about, whether it's themes, characters, symbols, all of that boring stuff. So again, look at the previous years, don't stick to just your current study guide. Look at all the years before that as well for the books that you're doing, and see what has come up and what hasn't come up. So for example, I did Frankenstein last year as our text response. Is that what it's even called? I've literally forgotten. Oh, text response, not the comparative. Yeah, actually I have no idea. But this can be for just the plain text and the comparative, but you want to look at the themes that have come up and what hasn't. So for Frankenstein, there's like masculinity, knowledge, nature, all of that weird stuff that you've obviously learnt during class, and you want to try and make up questions that haven't been asked before so you can try and practice in that style of writing. So with this tip, just try and make your own questions. You don't have to stick to the VCAR ATAR ones, but if you do look at them, see what's missing, see what your potential Year 12 question could be. Alrighty, so those were all the VCE Year 12 really specific tips for you guys. Now I'm just going to move into some more basic study tips. Even if you're in Year 10 and you're watching this, try and apply these throughout your study years so then you can get better before your Year 12 exam, or even just listen to this and see if you can still use them in uni. I'm sure you definitely could, but I don't, because I don't do exams at uni. Art courses are the best. So the first tip is to make use of all the different sources that are out there. So don't just stick to your textbook and the notes that your teacher is giving you. If you have access to things like a Drollo, that is really good because you can get an understanding a little bit different to what your teacher has taught you and listen to what this educator has taught and see if your understanding is developed a little bit better, or if it helps you think of it in a different way or gives you a little bit more depth to answer a question that's based on that knowledge. Also, by saying this, when you're doing practice exams, don't just stick to VCAR, try and do some other ones. Ask your teachers if they know any other sources or any other exam writers and see if you can do them as well, because majority of the time the exam papers from different companies are usually harder, so you want to try and get the most exposure to different questions and levels of difficulty for you to practice with. The next one is to fill up your wall with notes. Heaps and heaps of notes for every single subject. I know quite a lot of people in my year level did this, and I think it's probably a really good way to keep you on track because you're constantly seeing those notes and you are reminded, I need to study. I had notes up on my wardrobe here and I saw them every single day. Even when I was laying in bed, I was like, oh my god, I need to study more. So it's a good little reminder, but you can even use this with quotes. Stick them up around your house, and every time you look at it, you kind of remember the quotes being in that specific area. So if you're in the exam and you're like, oh my god, my Frankenstein quotes for masculinity were in my kitchen, and you can try and visualize it and it may help you remember it a bit better. Now, kind of related to the previous tip is to make heaps of chapter summaries, and what I did with these was stick those up on my wall so I was constantly seeing it, and it made me feel a little bit clearer with what topics were in which unit, so I felt more comfortable with like the chapters, subheadings, topics, all of that stuff. I'll also pop some pictures up just so you guys know for reference. But for psychology, I did that in year 11 and I made chapter summaries for every single one. I think there are about 12 chapters. Now this next tip is related to English, but you could really use it for any subject that has a lot of definitions that you need to remember. A lot of my teachers spoke about this and I didn't really find this method effective for me, but I'm going to share it with you guys anyway in case you want to try it and see if it works. But use voice memos on your phone and record yourself saying the definition, repeat it back to yourself and see if you can memorize it. And if you're working out or going for a walk, just listen to it. You've constantly got it with you without any physical notes to try and read off. Now moving into some of the tips that my friends told me and I really wanted to share with you guys as well. So the first one, very obvious, very simple. Keep your phone away. Put it in a different room, turn it off completely. Just don't get any notifications because it's going to distract you from how well you're studying. Now, if you're like me and also my friends as well, if you really suck at studying and not going on your phone, there is this tree app. You'll press start on the app and it starts growing a tree and it gets bigger and bigger for the amount of time you don't touch your phone. And I'm pretty sure for every full tree that you grow on the app, they actually plant a tree in real life. I'm pretty sure. But you can actually see how your friends are tracking on it as well. I'm pretty sure you can connect to Facebook and you can see how many trees they've grown and how long they've gone without touching their phone, and it can be a little bit competitive, so it may work for you, who knows. Now the next one is to take breaks. It is not good if you're studying for hours straight because it's just not going to go in your head at the end of how long you're studying for. But your break, how you spend it, is super important. You want to either go for a walk, try and exercise, or be with your family. Just do something in your break that doesn't include your phone. Now the next tip is to set realistic goals and plans. Now obviously a major goal is your ATAR and your study score, but your plans in between are really important as well. So try not to set yourself up for failure and say, I'm going to do 10 practice exams in one day, because that's not possible. You will be fatigued and you will get brain dead a lot. I remember just being so stale from doing so much study. I was like, I can't do anymore. So don't push yourself to that limit. If that's possible for you, go for it. That's a goal and a plan that you can achieve, but try and do something that is realistic to you. Also, by saying that, please do not use the ATAR calculator apps. I fell for this. I got my hopes up. I know some people use the calculator and they actually get an ATAR higher than that or pretty similar, but that did not work for me, especially with scaling. All my subjects went down and I feel like the app didn't really calculate that very well. And I know it's so tempting that you just want to figure out using the Deakin one or the Monash one, what potential you have and what ATAR you may possibly get. Just don't use it. If you look at it and you get a 90 ATAR in the app, you're like, I can easily get this. Or the other way around, you'll get stressed out and so overwhelmed that your study time just won't even be effective from looking at it. Now, the next tip is to try and stay in your routine. So these school holidays, I know you want to have holidays, but it's so important that you study, especially before the swap vac period as well. But stick to your school timetable so you're not ignoring any of the subjects that you don't like or you find a little bit harder. I'm guilty of this. I really hated studying for English and I never did it. And I also didn't study that much for my VCE exam because I was hoping my folio would carry me, but no. So please pay attention to every subject. Follow your school timetable so then you can't go wrong, and then you get the same amount of study for every period and you get those breaks included as well. Now, my second last tip is to study with friends. I found this really important and my friends actually told me this one as well. But when saying this, you want to study with people that are on the same wavelength as you and that you can really concentrate with. It may be difficult with restrictions, but when there was no such thing as restrictions, me and two of my friends in the same subject, we went to school, we got a classroom all to ourselves and a whiteboard, and we just wrote down, recapping everything, all of our knowledge on certain topics, and basically just did summary reviews and asked each other questions and tried to memorize definitions and quotes and all of that stuff. Now, my lucky last tip is to have a nice study area that you will study in. Now, at my school, we were fortunate enough to have heaps of guest speakers come in and tell us how they studied and what we should really know. And it's actually a good idea not to study in your bedroom. I have a desk right behind me which I studied at, but during exams I would either study on the dining table and would tell everyone to get away, let me study in peace, or I'd actually study in my mum's office because at the time my mum and dad were in the Maldives while I was doing my exams. It was so depressing. But I had her office all to myself and I found I wasn't distracted in there because it was just a plain office. I had nothing to distract me. Now, I know for other people they like studying outside if it's like a picnic setting, or they go to a university and study in a library there. It really just depends what will work for you, and obviously if you're class of 2020, what you're allowed to do with restrictions, unfortunately. So those were all my tips that I'll be sharing with you guys today. These ones I found were really important and something that really helped me when I was studying as well, and I feel like they were really effective and made my time so much more efficient when I was studying. So I really hope it's the same for you guys. I tried to avoid the tips that are like, don't spend too much time on your notes. Like, everyone knows that. So I really tried to share important ones with you guys and I really hope it helped. But if you're studying for your exams, I wish you the best of luck. Do not stress. It's not the end of the world. I know everyone says that, but you can always be reminded again. Just try not to stress yourself out. You've made it so far and I know you can do it. But if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. Give it a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you aren't already. But other than that, thank you for watching and I'll see you in my next video.